Everybody here probably knows the name Tim Corrigan, and I think it's easy for us to say that without the work that he did back in the 80s and 90s, that none of what you see here at Space or Small Press itself would be the same as it is today. He created a community atmosphere on a national scale that was unprecedented. It brought everyone together. And he brought joy to everybody. I think before I do anything here, I'd like the folks here at the panel to just express themselves about what Tim Corrigan meant to them. So whoever would like to go first, feel free to take their turn.
I was trading zines with Tim Corrigan. I guess we met through an ad in the Comics Buyer's Guide back in sophomore in college. What year? Like 74, 75. And got an issue of Tim Corrigan's superhero comics. And it was impressive because he called his publishing company C&T Publishing. It's named after Tim and Carol. When did you guys get married?
1981. We were married 34 years.
And my most impressive thing that I remember about him is that when I asked him to contribute to small, giant-sized mini-comics, I was editing that for Eclipse, one issue of it for Eclipse, and I asked him to contribute to it, and he sent me a guy's story. And after the comic was done, I returned all the original art, but kept the photocopies. And when I was going through my papers a while ago, I found all the photocopies from Giant Size Mini Comics #3. I was looking at Tim's stuff, and I realized he hadn't sent me mini comics, or he hadn't sent me photocopies. He had sent me original art, and I had mistaken his original art for a photocopy because it was so clean. It was so white on. The pens he used were all like brand new, perfectly black, and it was only by looking on the other side, it had bled through over the years, and I realized that was the original art, so I had to return it to him. He was still alive then.
What a story.
Anything you remember about him, Pam?
Well, you know, I want to, just seeing his stuff here, and the first thing I think of when I think of Tim is seeing his table at conventions, which, you know, how many of Tim's comics tables have I seen? And they were always so full, and they were always so filled with color. All of this little second color that he would add to things with marker, and just the example he set of lifetime dedication, of stuff kept in print, and of a full table, and of just work, 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 and the model he was to us, the example he set, and that every time from behind that table he wasn't just hustling comics or talking about comics or selling comics, he was teaching comics. We learned, I learned so much from him. Every time I reduced type to fill a block, you know, as part of a composition, I think there's Tim. And the earliest stuff that was typed on a typewriter, you just know it was. And also once he put me on the cover of one of his zines. And this is oddly enough the one. Yeah, he put me on the cover.
So it just happened to
bring that one. And there's an ad. I know you're wiser than that, but that the comic that I'm advertising here, I just found when we emptied out our storage unit and put the stuff in our new garage, and that comic is on my table right now. That I was advertising in this scene in number 9, $1 cheap.
Still reprinting it?
Well, no, because it was one of those ones I printed with printing, and I got 2,000 of them, and I assure you there's plenty left.
Michael.
Well, I was looking at this Small Press Comics Explosion from 1986, which I've never seen before. And I think what Tim Corrigan said at the top of this issue pretty much explains it all. He says, anyone can write, draw, ink, letter, publish, and distribute their own comics.
I believe that's the first nationally distributed issue too.
Yeah, it could be.
Because right before that, it was only available through the mail, but that one, I believe, is the first one that went out through Diamond and all that.
Yeah. But see, to me, that was a radical concept at the time. When I picked up a copy of Small Press Comics Explosion from a comic book, a Columbus comic book store in 1986, I didn't know that mini comics existed. I had no idea. So when I picked that off the shelf and leafed through it, it opened up literally like a whole new world to me. I mean, there are mini comics from that issue that I ordered that today I'm still friends with those people today. And if you had told me, yeah, you're one of them. And if you had told me in 1986 that in the year 2016 there'd be a convention with hundreds of people self-publishing their own comics, I would have said you're crazy.
Absolutely.
You know? So, so that's right. Right. It is crazy. So he was
It's lasted this long too.
So he was a real visionary. I mean, I think he knew that was going to keep on going on, and and I think it's up to us to keep on, pressing on with that idea. But he had so much passion for comics. He had that he wanted to express and share, and I really liked the fact that he was constructive in his criticism. When he would review your comic, he didn't just tear it down. He would tell you what was good about it and maybe tell you how to make it better, but do it in a real, gentle, constructive way. And I think that is a really something that you didn't see all the time in the small press community. So.
Absolutely.
Oh, he could slash and burn if they just.
There might have been some things that he would.
There was a number of them that I didn't like to find. You have a word or two about it?
Sure. It's funny, he pulled this one up. I couldn't find my copy. Pam, the other night, Friday night, we were standing in the back of the Laughing Ogre, which the back room of the Laughing Ogre was the Wizard of Comics back in the day.
That's true.
You remember that,
Yeah.
right? And I drug Pam over to
Yes, you did, to the
near
exact
the door
spot.
to the closet, which was the spot where the rack was, where I picked this up and kind of changed my life. So I always remember that. Now, I have this somewhere in a big pile of things in my basement, but up to that point I had been trying to submit things to different publishers and getting,
Shot down.
shut down and a lot of rejection letters. So but I kept it up, and then I thought, I heard about this stuff, but I never had an outlet or way to get to it. And I walked into the Wizard of Comics that day, and I saw the Small Press Comics Explosion. I was like, "Ooh, that's great." So, and through that, people who lived in Columbus, I started meeting because they were also submitting small press comics, and that's how we found each other. And it wasn't until a few years later that we started getting together at the Mid-Ohio Con in like '88, where the network and the local guys all started getting together. And but if it wasn't for that spark, Mid-Ohio Con get-togethers wouldn't have started. Doe Comics, where a lot of us met, wouldn't have got together, and Space wouldn't have happened. So Tim's influence is far-reaching, and I don't know about it. Now, Space has generated a lot of other shows. I'm not taking credit for a lot of those, but it
is a model for what
it is.
trying.
I'm not taking a lot of credit for that. It's just I did it and it worked, and it keeps growing. So, and most of the people out there, I've just said, if you don't know who Tim Corrigan is, you should find out. And most of them won't ever be aware of that, but they wouldn't be here today.
That's true.
So in 2000, it's funny that it popped up right here. In 2006, we gave Tim the Lifetime Achievement Award just for that reason. And I always valued his friendship, and after being torn down on a lot of rejections, I sensed stuff to Tim, and Tim was always very constructive and enthusiastic, and always had a lot of nice words, so it kind of kept me going. And I'm still doing a lot of the same old stuff, but I'm still doing it. So, but just from that encouragement originally.
Yeah. It was about 30 years ago that I wrote a letter that was printed in the Comic Buyer's Guide, and it just happened to be spotted by Matt, who sent me a mini comic in the mail and said, at the end of my letter in the Comic Buyer's Guide, I said, I'd like to write comics someday. And he said, well, why don't you? And so he showed me one of his mini comics, and if you want to get involved with it, look up Small Press Comic Explosion. And so I did, and that changed my life. I was just a kid in high school at the time, and I was a dyslexic kid. Was socially awkward, and it changed my life. Later that year, after putting out a number of issues of my Dungar the Barbarian comic, Tim Corrigan's magazine named it Best New Sci-Fi Comic of the Year. And this particular certificate, when it showed up in the mail, really changed my life. And it was the recognition that something that I wrote was, out of all these people that I'd seen in this magazine, was something that was appreciated so much that it was named the best of the year. And this changed my life forever. And I was looking in a box of stuff this past week, and I found it, and I said, Kathy, my wife's over here, and I said, we got to take that and show it. It's from 1986.
Wow.
It's probably the same years as you right there. Tim Corrigan was a mentor to me throughout the years. A lot of things that I've done in my publishing career was a direct result of things that Tim Corrigan suggested to me. In 1989, or 87, 89, somewhere in there, he wrote me a letter and said, there's a need in the small press right now that is not being filled by anybody, and he suggested that I fill it. He said that there's no guide or phone book of who's doing what. And so I took up the suggestion of doing that, and by 1989 I put out an issue of Small Press Guide, which collected information of who's publishing small press stuff at that time. And I've used that as a basis over the years on my website, just keeping a list of who's done what, wherever I can find the information. I've got a database. I've got tons of information that's not yet into that database. It's sitting in boxes from stuff that through the magazine that I started, because when Tim wasn't publishing, there was a need to do it. So there's just a lot of stuff that we have to appreciate what he meant to all of us. I found this in one of the boxes I went through. It's a news release that Tim Corrigan sent to me for my magazine. It was in 2001, and it basically describes. I started a new magazine at the time called Obscurity Limited, and it was probably just after he stopped doing the Small Press Creative Explosion, somewhere around there. And he describes in the news release that he wanted to let people know that he's still there, because there was no internet, nobody knew what was going on. If he stopped publishing, nobody knew. He explains here that he had a number of subscriptions that are wrote out, and that he's working on slowly refunding those. And so I remembered this when it came into me, and I was like, when I got this, I was like, well, I sent him a letter back, because I was like, it's a shame that there's so much, that it's undone stuff, and these people, so I offered to take the debt, and I said, if we if you send me the names and addresses of the people and how many issues are owed to them, I've started a new magazine, I'll fill those orders, and you don't need to have that debt on you. You've done so much for so many people, there's no reason to have that. But then he wrote back to me and said, we need to give people a choice. He'd be happy to offer that to his subscribers and let them, if they want to, switch their subscriptions over to mine. But he'd also like to offer them things. Throughout Tim's entire life, he mentored me that way, and he gave me the information of the center and the community that needs to be happening. He encouraged me to write poetry more, and he put music to some of my songs way back when, and those little things changed my life too. It gave me all these things that made me who I am today. And one of my efforts that I've been working on over the past number of years here, since about 2011, I've been building that database of who's done what. And I've been working on trying to change it into a real Hall of Fame system so that we can recognize who's done what over years, and the really significant people that have done something in the past can be recognized in a permanent way. And so what I've done here, I made a plaque that's for Tim Corrigan. We're inducting him officially as the first member of the Hall of Fame. I'd like to read this out loud real quick while we're here. This certificate is awarded to Tim Corrigan for the special place he holds in the hearts of small press publisher as the man who brought us small press comic explosion and took an underground hobby into a movement for doing it yourself. We recognize him as the first inductee into the Small Press Hall of Fame. As he led us before there was an internet, so shall he lead us into a new era of recognition for the work we love to do. And so this copy of this plaque I'd like to present, and you guys take this home with you. We have a second copy that we're going to keep for the permanent record and show what it shows in the future and such. But that one is for you guys. Okay? And we love you guys that you're here today to take that. Let's give them a round of applause. That was my spiel. Does anyone have any other words that they'd like to bring up? Anybody in the audience that has memories of Tim? We'd love to hear from them.
About 25 years ago, I had this idea to do a Christmas story. It was going to be, I did the writing and the layouts, and I handed it to the next person to do penciling. It would be handed to somebody else to do lettering, and someone would do inking. We'd all chip our money in, and that would be a greeting card that we sent out to our respective families and friends. Well, things happen like they do. And I had this story that was penciled with a cover that was inked and lettered. And I had been carrying it around with me to shows and showing it off to a lot of different people. And I happened to be in Chicago for the Comic-Con in '97, I think. And I stopped at Tim's table. And I had already known Tim by that point. In fact, I think I had a lot of stuff reviewed, and that the Small Press Comics explosion that everyone's held up, that also brought me into it. I knew I had arrived in Small Press when in the same issue I got a bad review, and it was well deserved. But then somebody else's book was reviewed, and he said, "This reminds me of Mike Carroll's early stuff." So, best of both worlds there. So I showed Tim this Christmas story, and I said, I've been looking for somebody maybe to ink or letter this. And he said, and he looked through it, and he said, I'd be happy to do this. And so I left the work with him, and And I thought, well, I didn't really say whether, they didn't really find out whether he wanted it, whether he was going to letter or ink it. And some time passed, and I got this package in the mail, I think maybe a year or so later. And he finished the book. He inked and lettered the whole thing. I would say among the memories I have is that one right there is the generosity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I have the work with me at my table. If anybody would like to stop by and take a look at it.
Bruce, you said you had your hand up?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's no different from anybody else's story, but, you're going through the buyer's guide. This guy makes his own comics. This is pretty cool, You order them, I can do this, And, for me, it was, it started out with Small Press Explosion or, Comics Buyer's Guide, seeing that other people are doing this, and, I'd send a one-page submission here and there, and I finally broke down and did a story and sent it to somebody, and it never really got distributed much, so I finally published my own first, But yeah, it's just, and I'm far from prolific, quite a few years working 2 jobs and trying to raise 3 kids in the meantime, it's so. Now that I'm getting older, or getting younger, I actually have some time to do this stuff. I still procrastinate a lot.
Maturity and age are,
Yeah, definitely. But Tim definitely was an inspiration, number one, and a mentor, number two. Just reading the Small Press. You'd read it, you'd get all excited again, and you'd start working. And but yeah, like I said, I don't think that's any different from anybody else's story, really. Here's this guy who's putting it all out there and saying, letting me know that other people do this stuff, And over the years, I realized, quite frankly, I don't do it for anybody but me. It's just, it makes me feel good, and, but it's nice to know. It was nice to know that there were other people in the world that did what they loved to do, and it made them feel good. And for me, even if the artwork's a little cruder or whatever, certainly like mine, it's still better than professional comic art because they didn't do it for money; they did it for love of what they wanted to do. And and Tim's a perfect example. Tim was a perfect example of that. He just did what he loved to do, and then he put it all out there so everybody else could do that. And so yeah, it was a great mentor, and what can I say?
Absolutely. It was having, well, I believe that's pretty much our feelings, that we will always treasure Tim Corrigan as the reason for what's going on around us in publishing, because he's showed us the community atmosphere and feeling that has made everything wonderful for us. And it's just, we'll carry that with us forever.
I'd like to talk about Tim, but I'm afraid it would take hours.
I'll visit your table and you can.
I'd like to just say thank you to everyone for having us here and giving us this chance to hear.
Actually, he meant the world to me, and I know he meant the world to everybody. That, like, more than one person has said that he provided mentorship, and that's such a wonderful thing. And
He's also a really cool friend. He was a cool guy to talk to, outside of, when you sat with him in the lobby of the hotel. And
Right.
he was entertaining.
Most of my conversations with him was outside the hotel.
Yeah.
We were standing out front, talking to people.
Well, and here's a guy you looked at, like he was up here, but then when you talk to him, he was
He was just one
like,
of us.
he was just one of us. It's so cool because there's the image and there, you know, it's just, yeah, it's just.
Before I met him, I totally considered him a celebrity.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Afterwards, I said,
Well, yeah, he's my celebrity
In
friend.
context, yes.
Yeah, exactly, celebrity friend, that's it, yeah, absolutely.
Carol, where did you guys meet?
Well, we're both living in Rochester, New York, and we met on a date.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Somebody that I was working with, it was his sister-in-law, and she knew we were both artists, so she fixed us up on a date, and that was it. That's it.
Did you find out about his comics activity
The
on
whole
the first date?
comic thing, yeah, because he started like, you know, when you first meet someone and you want to like share the stuff that's important to you, and so I remember him giving me a copy of, I don't know, I think it was Silver Surfer or something to read.
That's usually not the way to get girls.
That's right.
Despite that, it didn't work out, so. It's like, was a long time ago, so it's hard to remember, you know, exactly when I became aware of how much this world is important to him, but it certainly, you know, I started seeing the things that he was doing, and then he started doing the Mighty Guy thing, and it was just, I've always liked his humor, and that was one of the things that attracted us to each other, was a sense of humor, so his funny comics just blew me away. And a funny thing about being married to somebody who has, you know, he would like show me something to read, and of course I wouldn't read it until it was done. So, and the pictures were there and everything was finished. So I'd be reading it and I'd laugh at something, you know, laugh out loud. He'd be like, what was it?
It's like you're in my house.
I almost didn't want to read it in front of him because I wanted to just be able to read it and laugh, but because he would like stop and say, well, what was funny? You know, he had to know what I was laughing at, so that's,
Best audience.
yeah.
If you could make that audience laugh, I mean, seriously, if you could make your spouse laugh out loud,
Yeah.
you know, the person who you've been with for thousands of years, if you could get them to laugh, man, that's the best laugh. He was glad when you laughed.
One of the first things I did when I subscribed to Comic Explosion was I found an advertisement in it for all of his mini comics that he had available, and I ordered the entire package. And he had mini comics called King Cotton
True that.
and stuff. I don't think
No, this.
you have them available out there. I didn't see them.
No.
But I probably have a number of comic books from him that you guys have never seen.
It's
that
possible.
didn't make it. One of these days when I actually get them unearthed out of the box.
That's one of my biggest problems with him, is most of it's buried.
Yeah,
It's very, very deep.
I think you guys would be fascinated to see it, because it was a very funny comic.
Klingons, correction.
Oh,
They went to Klingons.
yeah.
He's a hard guy to find pictures of.
Well,
Yeah.
Most of his
the thing that
pre-internet.
if anybody noticed how rude I was, that I was taking a photograph here with my camera a minute ago, Matt, hold that up while you're reading, is this wonderful, wonderful photograph of Tim on the back of this with the Grateful Dead hair, and he just looks
Yeah.
so wonderful. That was what I was doing, was I was making sure I had a copy of that because I want to write about him on my blog. And
We met in a hallway in a hotel in Chicago, and I was halfway down the hall, and I just looked over, and two guys were standing there talking. I never met either one, but I recognized them both instantly. It was Steve Keeter and Tim. Tim had the Frank Zappa hair and mustache, and Keeter looked just like his drawings. It was like two cartoons or something. I just walked up and joined in, like I had no known him forever.
But it also bears mentioning, besides the comics, that Tim was an accomplished musician, and he put out a lot of music over decades.
Yeah, I brought that tape that Nick bought from you, my husband Nick bought that tape from him years ago, and I know we listened to it quite a few times, and it's very good.
Is that
Optimism.
Optimism, yeah, and I wanted to, this is terrible, I wanted to listen to it again, and we no longer own cassette.
By the way, you can buy a new one at Walmart.
Yes, I know I could go to Walmart and buy one, because we discussed it last year, but, and I will someday. What I will do is I'll try to find one and digitize it.
Yeah, and I've got cassettes of him when he did albums with Steve Keeter,
Oh, yeah.
different things like that. So somewhere in the box, I've got the music that he wrote. He did music to songs that I wrote back in 1987 or something like that. And it's in a box somewhere. It's just one of those things that I live with. My wife lives with my boxes. She knows my ultimate plan is to get it all organized, but it's all there.
Because
sitting there.
your boxes have got to be a treasure trove.
So, over the years for Self-Publisher magazine, people would send me, I would get 100 things in the mail every single day, and it would just be crazy. When the magazine was going really well, it was just, I'd have so much stuff, I had no idea how I'd ever get to all of it. And I still haven't gotten to some of it. But that is an exemplification of the explosion of small press comics explosion, because that's what it did. It exploded, it went everywhere. And it's going to, I fully believe it will continue to.
Just remember how
long after all of us.
how happy you were to open the
Oh, yeah.
box and see one of these little guys.
It would be an
It's like,
absolute
there it is.
enjoy every
Yeah.
time. There was no internet at that time, and
Yep.
when it got in the mail, that was your fix.
Yeah, it was your contact with the world, the rest of the world.
And because of that, I'd go to like Chicago Con before Wizard in the 90s, and you'd show up there and you already had a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
You already knew all these people, but never met them before.
Yeah.
So yeah, he really set up the community.
He was, one of the happiest periods of his life was when he was doing pre-internet, getting stuff in the mail, and sitting at his typewriter and doing the explosions. It was a lot of work, and I know he burned out on it toward the end, but he loved doing that.
Yeah, I always associate him with reduced type, with typewriter. You know, and that when you'd say Tim Corrigan, and that the yellow and the reduced type, the artistic things that come to my mind.
He told me he would even take the typewriter when we went camping.
He did a couple of times, yeah, he did. I loved his typewriter.
Did he have more than one typewriter?
Oh, yeah.
Smith Road, that was his favorite. I remember
A
that.
lot of rubber cement.
We have several typewriters.
How much you could auction those for?
Unfortunately, the people who would want it have no money.
This is often the case.
Yeah.
Belongs in a museum.
I've always thought what this community needs is wealthy patrons like Italian Renaissance dukes to throw at our history, because it does worry me sometimes. I mean, I'm glad to hear Ian talk about his boxes and everybody talk about their boxes, because there is history here that needs to be preserved.
And I consider it my life's work. I mean, Tim Corrigan encouraged me to do it way back when, and it's something I really feel we as a community, we need to have that record of. I've got stuff in boxes that the people that published it might have done 5 or 6 mini comics and then disappeared. And their names and the work they did, that they poured their hearts into, is just sitting waiting. Nobody knows anything about it. And I'd like to have that information in a complete database so that people can see. And their kids can go back and look up their dad's name on the thing and say, oh, look what he did. And-
Yeah, when he was in high
and
school
from-
or
Right.
in his
and
20s and,
That history aspect, I believe is so important. And we, as a community, all of us here at Publish should want to have our data remembered. And that's a project dear to my heart, and I'm going to keep going on that.
When you win the lottery, you can establish a physical Hall of Fame.
I'd love to.
Tim's typewriter.
I would love
yeah, then there'd be a place for the typewriter in this case, yeah.
And all the boxes.
All the boxes, everybody's boxes.
I could line these walls, I really could.
Yeah, you could.
But yeah, that's all I can give you is we love you guys because you were with him. And so I believe if there's anything else to say, we can say it now.
Forever hold your peace.
Well, I just realized that I looked at the date on this, 1986. I'm celebrating, Back Porch Comics is celebrating its 30th year of
Yeah.
publishing, and that's where it started.
That's where it started.
30 years.
I also want to point out a small mystery that this 1986 photograph of Matt Feazell looks exactly the same as he does now.
Yeah,
I've long wondered.
Those are the same glasses, come on.
well, that's just because he
Might be the same hat.
picked a style and he stuck with it. No, it was a gray hat for a long time.
Classic style.
This one's black. No, when you decide you're gonna wear like the Ray-Ban glasses frames, they were so making.
I'm so old.
I've been wearing this 50 millimeter Panto for, well, since I got my first bifocals and I was 21. And I've never changed my size or my frame shape because I want my line to stay in the same place. Because I'm tripping over my feet. You pick something to stick with you, that's what I say.
Feazell's hats is going to be going into the Small Press Museum.
No, I got to wear them out.
Yeah, you put a grease in.
Right next to the 20-foot statue of Cynical Man.
Of course.
Oh, boy.
There we go.
Anyone else? Any last words? Any last words?
We loved him.
Yeah, we did.
That sounds good.